Jensen, and I run a local nonprofit, and I'm here to help with education advocacy. We've got two great candidates, so we're going to do some Q&A, and this is our first candidate. Do you want to introduce yourself real fast?
Sure. Kyle Possoit. I've been in Stewart County for about 4 years. Was at Fort Campbell for 13. Originally from Louisiana. I coach softball, soccer. We do a lot of stuff at the elementary school. My wife is an aide at the elementary school, and I have 2 daughters that are at the elementary currently.
Awesome. All right, let's just jump in. So, Kyle, why are you running for the Board of Education? And if elected, what will be your priorities?
So I started initially when all of it started, when we were designing everything. Me and some other people were just talking, about the needs. First of all, it started for me with special education. Providing a little bit more funding and just kind of oversight to that program. I feel like a lot of the times it's a smaller amount of children, and it kind of gets overlooked to an extent from most of the population. And then a lot of it was, I just wanted somebody competent on the board. I wasn't sure, who would be running at the time. So threw my name in there, and it just kind of stuck, and that's why I started.
Awesome. Is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the Board of Education?
So, like I said earlier, it started at special education and trades. I'm in the trades. I didn't go to college. College is great for a lot of people, and trades are great for a lot. I think that it definitely has to be promoted in both ways. But since getting involved in the school system and going to meetings and learning more, talking to a lot of people, an itemized budget is a huge one for me. I want to know where the money is going. I know that it's going to the right places, but I want to know where. I want to know how we can create opportunities for all children, not just sports. I'm a huge sports fan, but there has to be something for everybody. Kids these days are faced with a lot more, I'd say adversity, but a lot more things than we were when we were kids. So we have to keep them engaged. We have to give them the opportunities to grow into, whatever it is they want to be, and give them an outlet to do that in. Whether it's art, music, band or math or whatever it is. So that's a big one that motivated me, is to try and push the opportunities for all kids.
Awesome. Okay, so what differentiates you from current school board members?
The huge thing is I'm not kidding anybody. So, not for real. I feel like the difference from me, there's 2 main things. One, like I said, I'm not kidding anybody. If I ask a question, I don't have to worry about repercussions at the next family dinner, which is a big one. I enjoy all the board members. I enjoy, this county. I grew up in a small town in Louisiana, so I understand everybody's got to answer to somebody. Especially when you start talking about school, it's a huge ordeal. People get their feelings hurt, and it then becomes not education, it becomes, bad other things. And then number 2 is I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world. I've seen what really good opportunities can do for children, and what no opportunities are. I grew up at a real small school. I was fortunate enough that I had baseball and parents that took care of me and pushed me, but not everybody gets that, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity there. A lot of people didn't do good. So I think that's what differentiates.
Perfect. What is a school board's member's role and responsibility? How does that role differ from the role of superintendent or administration?
So the role and responsibility, of course, is budget approval, policies, and then oversight. A lot of the superintendent will, create the policies, write them, write the budget, coordinate with the administration on how they want things ran. But the board ultimately approves the budget, where the money's going, what policies are in place, overall policies. So that's the biggest difference, is board members can't just go, I can't walk up to the school and say this needs to be done. It has to be in session at a board, it has to be a policy. We don't get to make, I guess, random decisions.
I used the wrong language there. We're now a director. I got these questions from somebody else, so that was my bad. We have a director now, not a superintendent. So what is your role when supervising the director of schools?
The role of supervising is just guidance and oversight. We all, everything gets put to a vote, whatever that vote ends up being, whether I vote for or against it, I still have to enforce that with the superintendent or the director, and just give that guidance on what we can and cannot do as a district or as a school system.
Okay. How can a board know if its goals are being accomplished and its policies are being implemented?
So, the school board is supposed to do an annual review for its policy. That's a good way to do it, and then a good way, in my opinion, is to have a mandatory anonymous survey from teachers and administrators. A lot of people don't want to put their name on things, so you get to see more of the truth come out when you make it anonymous. But teachers, principals, administrators, aides, all of it should be a mandatory annual survey, in my opinion.
Okay. How can the board be accessible to the community?
So, of course, I put things on Facebook. Each board member has their phone number, email on the website, whether that's right or not. Sometimes it's to be determined. But of course, I've seen people. One of them is Mr. Brad. He emails everybody. I think there's a lot of ways that it needs to be done. I like that Sydney is putting the meetings on Facebook now, on YouTube. It's really hard to hit everybody, I believe, because not everybody has Facebook, not everybody has email. Everybody's busy. You can't sit there and call, 1,500 people or however many people are in the district. So I think trying to provide a multitude of ways on what the agenda is, what decisions were made, when the meetings are. I think that you kind of have to be diverse in the way that you put it out.
Okay. How can the board be accessible to the community? Oh, I just answered that. I'm sorry. How can a board of education best communicate with its constituents, which is similar to what we just asked, and you touched on that. I'll just kind of expand the question. Right now, we're struggling to have the community engagement as far as having the constituents or any of the community members involved and informed, like you touched on. We have the website's not up to date of the school board members, and we've had issues with constituents not being able to get a hold of their school board member because it's, they're not accessible. Is there a way that the school district can improve so they can be accessible and communicate to the community?
So I believe, and I may be wrong, each candidate has a personal email. They're not using a school email, which would help because then they have to follow up on their school board or school system email. They would know it was right. Phones, it's a little difficult to get. Which we have a director of IT, but he's also pulling double hat. He's also the director of the budget, which is very, very hard to do. In my opinion, I feel like the budget would overwhelm me to the extent that I wouldn't be able to focus on IT. I think that he is great at his job. He's a good guy, but in IT,
what should the school district do to better prepare students as citizens?
So, first and foremost, is every person should be held accountable. Children, parents, teachers, principals, school board officials, whoever that is. If you're not held accountable when you become an adult, it's just, wow, do a lot of things. And then a big one that I've already touched on is opportunities. There's so many opportunities for the world that I didn't know about when I graduated high school. All I knew about was pipeline, oil field, paper mill. Go to work. If you don't go to college, you gotta go to work. But there are so many things that you can do. I'm not into art, but you can go, paint a Mona Lisa, or you can go be a chartered fishing guide, or you can, dig wells. There's just so many things, and I think that provided different opportunities for people. I think that the high school has great technical courses, they really do, and they have great advanced placement courses to help kids get an associate's before they even graduate. But I think we need to start it a little bit earlier. Middle school, they don't have an art program, and I might be wrong. If I am wrong, please correct me. But I know the elementary schools do. But I think that that's the biggest one, is providing opportunities, making sure that kids are held accountable, making sure teachers have the opportunity to hold them accountable without worrying about the repercussions that are gonna come. Because we all know as parents how we can be. Also, they have to, but the teachers have to have the authority to be able to make those decisions. They have to stop it in the classroom before it gets out of hand.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the school district's programs for special education students and gifted students?
So gifted students, like I just talked about, the high school does have AP programs, which is super good. I do think if the middle school doesn't have it, which I don't believe they do, that we should start earlier. Not necessarily, each subject, but maybe one or two subjects. When a kid is, if a kid's bored in a class, they're not gonna do as good as if they're challenged. So if we challenge them a little earlier, then that'll be better for them in the long run. Special education, I think that most of the county cares tremendously. I think that we are underfunded on it. The percentage doesn't seem very high when you think about 15 to 20% of the community that goes to school has a special education IP or 504. But these are children that, with the right help, they can be successful in life, and with the wrong help, they're gonna be completely lost. So we have to focus really hard. We have to have teams that are going to make that their life mission. We have some great special education teachers, great assistants, but we have to give them the capabilities to be great.
What do you see as the major issue or issues facing the school system?
So one is not communicating with the community. Yes, I'm in District 6, but I know people everywhere, talk to people everywhere. I think that it's important that everybody talks about school, like kids are the future. One day we'll all be dead, and our kids will be doing this, and their kids will be doing this. So that's one. I think communication is one, and then I think no accountability. Whether it's a principal, a teacher, a student, a parent, whatever it is we have to make sure. I want to say everybody's treated fairly, but we need to make sure that you know the rules, you know the policies, don't break it. This is for, school's about education, it's not about indoctrination, it's not about doing this or doing that when you get older you can make that decision, whatever it might be. It's about, learning the subjects and becoming a productive member of society through that. And then last, I had,
Do you have specific suggestions for improvement?
Yeah, so two of the things I'd really like to see would be a director of business with an accountant degree, just to solely be able to itemize a budget from federal, state, everything that there is, tell us, hey, this percentage of money is going here, this percentage of money is going there. This is what it's going for, and then make informed decisions throughout researching other school districts. If that's their only thing, they can research other school districts, see where we're lacking, where we're doing better at in funding. And then a grant writer. If you look at the ESSER 3.0 funds, I don't remember how many grants that were out there, but say there's 40 grants, we missed out on 35 of them because we didn't write them. I've been doing some research on grants from Tennessee for other things, and it takes a lot of time. So one person isn't going to, or one person per department, when they're like, okay, I think I want a grant for this, they have to go out, research it, write it, all that. If you had somebody that was doing it, that's their job, they research, they figure out, where we're lacking. Do we need a special education grant? Do we need a general grant? Do we need a field grant? Or a light grant? Or a sign grant? So I think that those would be two big ones for me. And I think that it would kind of encompass the whole area. It would help funding, it would help, hey, we might even get a grant for a teacher, like a psychologist or something. So I think those are my two big ones that I would suggest right off the bat.
Okay. And this is the last one that I have, and then we'll jump into some of the public Q&A. What are your thoughts on the current and proposed budget for the school system?
So ultimately, I've pretty much covered it, but it needs to be itemized. It needs to be itemized. So one of the biggest backlashes that the school board faces is the budget, because nobody knows where it's going. So it needs to be itemized for that. That will take care of some of the complaints. It'll also give everybody awareness on how their child will be taken care of in that realm. Whether it's, we're going to get money for new smart boards, we're going to get money for the volleyball team, whatever it is. I think that way, because whether you're a parent or not, you're a taxpayer. All your part of your taxpayer money goes to it. So if we can make them aware of where that money's going, I think that it'll help increase or help decrease the complaints.
Okay, so I got two questions sent to me by Facebook for people that could not be here. So I'm going to ask those, and you've already kind of touched on them. What experience do you have with the special education programs in our schools?
So I have zero experience with it. My children do not need an IEP and 504. The only experience that I have is my wife is a interventionist. I do a lot of coaching. Through soccer, I've coached special education kids. Through softball, I have. So that is my experience. I can't imagine what it would be like to have to go through a problem with getting the right help or getting the 504 written or whatever it might be. So just Stewart County has such a population of, I don't want to say special education, but just poverty in children and abuse in children, that is one of the biggest things that make me run. So that's my experience.
Okay, and this one comes back to budget. Do you intend to be mindful, investigatory, I guess I'm reading that word right, investigatory toward our school budget?
Yes.
Okay.
So overall, it's the commissioner's job to pass the amount, the budget, and then the school board's job to make sure that it's going to the right places and to pass it. I think that it has to be a co-working of the commissioners and the school boards, and the mayor. So I intend to find out where the money's going, what the money, are we getting the right amount of money that we need? So that is,
Awesome. Is there anyone, Chelsea, did you want to ask any question or anybody else?
yes, ma'am.
I had spoken to the chair of the school board, Mr. Morgan, on an incident a few months ago, and I suggested, communication with the community, you touched on that, is very, very important. And I suggested to him at the time, if they was more open, maybe there wouldn't be so many issues, if people could understand the background. And I suggested to him at the time, maybe have an article in the paper, school news, something like that. What do you foresee? How could they increase communication with the community and do better serving all of its constituents, which basically is the entire county?
Yeah, so we don't really, in my mind, I don't have constituents, we have a county, right? Like, the children in District 6 are no different than the children in District 1. They're all the same, parents are the same. With that, I think, like I said, it's gonna be really hard. The paper's a great place to put the agenda, Facebook, put the agenda, most people are on it now. Have a website, or put the agenda on the website, and then, I think it should not be up to Sydney to videotape the meeting. I think that should be a county responsibility or a board responsibility. Me personally, it's not a big deal to tape it and put it out there. It kind of gets people involved, and yes, a lot of the problem is people don't know, what is going on in the school. So then they get upset and there's complaints, when if it was more open, I believe you would have less. I think if there was more conversation, I would have less. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but.
It did, thanks.
Yes, go ahead.
So after Tennessee, the state of Tennessee went from school superintendent, which is a public elected position, to a director of schools, which is a school board elected position, which should have a report card goes with it. If you were on the board right now, would you say that the director of schools is doing a good job? What kind of grade would you give the director of schools?
Trying to put me on the spot. I love Mr. Craig.
Sure.
He's a great guy. I think that with the right help in certain situations, proper funding, a few more people that can help out things, I think that it would be really good. I love Stewart County schools. There are problems, just like any school district. So I think that each person learns every day something new, and everybody gives it their best shot, and I think that he's doing really good. But there are things to improve on, of course. Everybody has to improve each day, so that's what I would say.
Well, the second part to that question would be, shouldn't he have a public record of some sort of holding the director of school, the most highest paid taxpayer person,
Yes, sir.
be held accountable so that we know, and that as constituents, we know what's going on, and as board members, you guys can give your input into exactly how well a director is going to be. And if the school board doesn't think the director is doing that good of a job, would you move to, let's put this out on Indeed or whatnot, we're looking for a director of schools? It is the highest paid position.
It is.
Over $100,000.
I think that there are, if the situation came where you were looking for a different director of schools, I don't think you'd have to look very far. There are a lot of competent people in the county that are very, very good with it. But with that being said, there is an annual review of all administration. Who falls under administration to an extent. So yes, there should be a public. I wouldn't say a public review, but maybe brought up at a meeting at the school. You get into, I would say with a public review, you leave a lot open for interpretation. That may not be what it is. So, but
So I have a two-part question. The first part, what is your familiarity with trauma-informed practices within schools? And then the second part of that is, do you feel it has a role in our district? Or it should?
Trauma-informed practices?
Yes,
I'm not gonna lie to you, I have no idea what that is.
that's fair.
If you explain it to me, though, maybe I will.
You actually kind of already touched on it a little bit. Basically, the services that are offered to kids to help as they grow older, tailoring their special circumstances and situations, things like that, and making sure that they get the resources that they need.
Yeah. So, when I talk about opportunities, there's so many things out there. The problem is we as parents too, and teachers, and everybody that kind of associates with kids, you have to kind of push them to find that thing that they're gonna grow into. I didn't, as far as, I'm not an artist, I can't draw a heart, but I enjoyed baseball, my dad pushed me towards baseball. You have to do those kinds of things, a lot of kids don't have parents to have that, but if there's opportunities, hey, maybe they get interested in music at an early age, or they get interested in this or that. That does not answer your question at all, but, I feel like it would help kids, especially in the trauma situations.
And when I say trauma situations, I do mean like there's actually a population. I will admit I'm more familiar with like Dixon County, but there's populations of homeless students. There are those who have recently had family members who get incarcerated or go through the juvenile justice system for one reason or another that may require a handle with care type. So, like, do you feel as though any of the staff should be educated on maybe some of that type of stuff as well? Do you think that there should be any different practices in place to kind of safeguard those children to ensure that they are able to get all the same services and education and stuff as?
So, I will say a couple things on it. I don't know that somebody isn't trained at each school. I don't have the answer to that.
Okay.
I would have to go ask. But, you look at services as far as like food. So they're homeless, they don't have food. The county used to give out food at the end of the day to kids that was left over. I'm not sure that they still do. I think that's a great thing, especially to kids that they may not eat all week. That's their only meal food. I will say that I do not believe in treating anybody different than anybody else. You have to grow up at some point, and I think that it makes the kid feel, I want to say it gives them an out. If you treat somebody different because you say they're homeless or whatever, you have to treat them a little bit different, but you don't want to make them feel left out. You don't want to make them feel vulnerable. You want to treat them the same and let them grow up to be, let them be a kid, hopefully. I know that I've never been homeless. I've lived and slept in a lot of places that didn't have a roof, but, so I can't tell you what that feels like, and I think that treating everybody with the same respect is the best way to grow as a child.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else? Okay.
That's
I
all
think-
kind of get me off stage.
No. I appreciate it. Thank you. And we will get this on Facebook for everyone to watch. Thanks.